this is your business. You're your own brand. Build your brand. Look at all the tools available to you. We didn't have those, really. Your brand was getting referrals. I remember, being one of the first guys to take their pictures and keep them on file. But now you can have your own Facebook page. You can have your own blog. You can have your own content. Talk about what you're interested in. Whatever you're interested in, people will engage with you.
Good evening and welcome to the After Hours with Jay podcast, the place for cold brews and hot automotive strategies. Tonight, Jason is hanging out with Dwayne Green of Cox Automotive. These two veterans in the business will share how you can reach your audience with today's tools and technology. Settle down with a fresh one and get ready to improve your game with your late night host, Jason Harris. But first, a message from our sponsor.
Sales, marketing, automotive. Jason Harris has done it all. This is the After Hours with Jason podcast. After Hours with Jason podcast is sponsored by DDS Beer Club. Beer specifically crafted for hardworking sales professionals. Find out more at ddsbeerclub.ca.
All right, Dwayne, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yep.
All right, to come jam with me tonight. I'm really looking forward to doing this with
Yep.
you. I think what you're doing right now and what you with Cox Automotive and what Cox Automotive is doing and how you're supporting that product and the digital retailing is super exciting. So having you here to kind of discuss that, is great. So I'm really looking forward to deep diving into this conversation. For everybody out here that doesn't know who you are, Dwayne, and
Sure.
a lot of people do. You've been this is not your first rodeo.
No.
You've been in the industry for a long time. But can you give us kind of that 2-minute origin story that is Dwayne?
Sure. Yeah, I always had an affinity for sales and marketing, and I was enrolled to go into marketing in the college university. And during high school, I got into a business where I got an answering service, driving school, rent a car out of the head office franchise while I was doing the elevator in the building, and started taking on extra roles and making extra money. Then I bought the place, and before I got into college, I had started leasing cars to all their franchisees. Had a sweet deal with Nissan where we got tons of program money so I could put these cars out for 3 months to the driving schools. And a Chrysler dealer came to me and said, "Hey, I'd like you to sell me your thing. We have a new Chrysler daily rental plan, and we're going to get your sales license, and you're going to start selling cars." And I said, "Well, who's going to listen to an 18-year-old? And he says, "Trust me, they will love you. I've been in my father's business since I was a kid, and people want you to succeed. You're going to do well." And I never looked back, So that's how I got into the car business. And after 20 years or so in management and winning all kinds of sales awards and management awards and that, I thought I'd like to do my own because I really wanted to get into the new things that were changing,
Sure.
SEO and websites and marketing. I built my own appraisal system so it would generate a check to the dealers that were on my system, and they would get a vehicle, whether they wanted to keep it or sell it. They had a firm check writing number.
Sure.
And away we went. I had college students working on the website and helping fill in the data for the appraisals, and eventually wanted to see a deeper dive, and that's where I got into Cox and DealerTrack.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing what's going on with Cox. I mean, just following them over the last 7 years. I mean, it's just, what are they not buying, really? And then I love the recent move into Canada. I mean, not that they
Sure.
haven't been in Canada. It's just now they've kind of really opened up a lot of their products and their solutions. I mean, I've been a dealer.com. I was a dealer.com user, 18 years ago?
Yeah.
So I've really got to watch, that product develop over the years and become this amazing, successful company that it is today. And Cox bought that. When did they buy that? Was it a few years ago that they purchased that?
Yeah, probably. 3.5, 4, yeah.
So it's super cool to see them kind of roll into the space, and really kind of develop out their website platform, which I think is awesome. I will say they did snag a couple of my employees.
Yeah,
Wasn't necessarily a bad thing,
Right?
That's what happens when you take graphic designers and teach them how to work multiple, CMS systems.
Yep.
The dealer.com solution being one. They're like, oh, wait a second, you've already been playing in the system for a couple of years and you live in Canada?
Yeah.
Here's a job.
But hey, it speaks to you because, a lot of the guys that I hired when I had my own place, I mentored are high up in Kijiji. I had syndicators and web developers every one of those kids, I feel like I mentored them, and they went on to
Oh
big
yeah, I'm
things.
excited.
So,
I'm super excited to see what they're doing and how they're going to progress within Cox Automotive. So I think it's awesome. And really at the end of the day, my goal and objective is always to provide as much value as possible to the dealers. And look, if the guys that I got to mentor, I got to train, they get to do that. I think that's totally awesome.
I think that's part of Cox success is I think they want to work with the dealer. I mean, there's a lot of places that are very one-sided. They don't play well in the sandbox with others. If you use an outside integration or an outside platform, you can't use it on our platform, and that's not the way they play. Although they have their fingers in a lot of things, auctions and now the finance and that. They're willing to integrate with just about anybody.
Oh yeah, I've actually thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, I know that we're kind of taking a different direction here, but just even like data policies within website platforms. Yep. I cringe sometimes when I read certain website providers' data policies. It's kind of disgusting, honestly.
Yeah, they own your data, and it's not right.
Exactly, and that's just never been kind of Cox's thing. It's just they're willing. They want the dealerships to succeed, and if they're not going to let something as silly as a data feed hold them back. So right. I think it's awesome that they're in full force now in Canada. I'm super excited to see what they do and how they move forward. In fact, that's actually one of the reasons that we're kind of here today is because we're talking about a product that has been in development for a while. It's not that it's a new product. It's been something that they've been working for a while. Yep. And I know there's some new exciting tools to it. There's been some new features added to it. Really what we're talking about is digital retailing.
Exactly. Yep.
And I think before we get into that, and I know it's because it's getting to the point now where digital retailing is kind of a buzzword.
That's right. That's all you heard at NADA, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, everybody. Everybody had some type of digital retailing. For the audience out there, can you define what digital retailing is in your words?
Yeah. I think digital retailing in its truest form is being able to do a complete car purchase online. Mm-hmm. I don't think Canada's ready to digest that pill. But I think people, and I can go through all kinds of stats from Cox surveys, but I think it's common sense to know that people want to do stuff online. They don't want to spend hours and hours in a dealership. Our studies show us that people want to visit the dealer, but they want to save time there. They don't want to spend all day, and so we can save them about 90 minutes of the process. They can look at our finance protection packages. They can see up-to-date lease rates, rebates, incentives. So they have all the tools the dealer have. I mean, you can actually desk it at your desk using your website. And they can get stuff done, and then they can come into the dealership and spend time trusting you as an advisor that their research is correct, learn about the dealership, where they're going to service the vehicle, build relationship, test drive the car. 89% of people aren't happy with the current process, yet 75% of them still want to do their final transactions, test drive, trade appraisals at the dealership.
And I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I think what's key is that the key word here was process. Yeah. What dealerships need to understand, and I've had the opportunity to do podcasts with multiple digital retailing companies, and at the core, what it is, it's a process. Yeah. And the tech, the tool, is a means to measure the effectiveness of these processes. And that's the only way I've ever seen it be successful. Yeah. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that's looking at digital retailing and they're saying, oh, well, this is just a fad. This is going to go away. Well, I heard the same thing. People say that about the internet. I've heard the same thing people said about, internet leads. Yep. I heard the same thing people say about websites. Yep. I mean, I remember, all right, when my dealership got their website, all right, we literally bought 9 different billboards around town, took full-page ads out in the paper just to tell people that they can now shop online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year at www.da-da-da-da-da, right? So I know a lot of people are going, well, no one's going to buy it, and this thing is so ridiculous and so far. Look, when we were talking about dealerships having a website, they were saying the exact same damn words.
I remember, because I've been doing it for 30 years, and I can remember 25 years ago, 20 years ago, and people starting to say it's coming and the dealership's going to be over. And obviously I'm dealer-centric because, I've lived half my life in the dealership environment, so I love it. Dealers are great people, even though we've got a bad reputation over the years, and sometimes rightly so, but they do a lot of nice stuff in the community, And a properly run dealership is a pleasure to be in.
Oh, 100%.
Their coffee machines are fantastic now.
Some are.
Some are.
I was at a dealership the other day. I'm not going to say who.
Yeah.
All right, but I was at a dealership the other day. They had a small little personal Keurig.
Oh, jeez.
That didn't look like it had been washed in 3 years.
Yeah.
So I just kind of went.
I mean, when we started, we had the old machines that you had to put your quarter in or whatever, and the powder
You know
would come
what?
out.
I wonder when that, because I actually remember that being a cool thing.
Yeah.
As a salesperson, and you knew you were a salesperson because when you walk around, you could hear the jingle in your pocket.
Yeah.
And it's because you always carried a handful of quarters with you.
Sure.
So that you
Exactly.
could buy.
Yeah.
So you could buy, and,
Sure.
and I was talking to a dealership the other day. I was like, it's a process that I think we've kind of forgotten, and I think it's a process that we should get back to.
Yep.
Is that dealerships out there, I would really recommend this, is to turn that function back on where you have to pay for your coffee.
You're committed to that.
And what it is the salespeople, because what it is, I know it's just a quarter,
Yeah. Or
but it's a
yeah.
token. It's
Yep.
just like, let me do this for you.
Yep.
There's a psychological thing that goes with the customer.
Sure.
When you physically buy them a coffee, you haven't asked for anything yet up to this point. You've only given them something
Yep.
of it's small value, but it's just you're in a giving position. So
It's just like the web now. It's give content. Give.
that's what I'm saying. So we're kind of getting
Yep.
back to that.
Yep.
It's that
I agree.
It's that ability to be able to give somebody information. Or
Yep.
in the old days, it was a coffee.
Yep.
Just being able to hand that over to them and say
Sure.
like, this is something that cost me money,
Yep.
but I'm going to hand this to you.
Yeah, my big thing was washing their car, and I'd be in a suit and tie, and they'd see me out there washing their car and sweating and come back in, and now I'm going to get your car priced, and they think, geez, this guy's really working for my business.
Yeah.
And so you gave, and that set you apart from some of the other salespeople.
Now, is this me just being nostalgic, or when the hell did that stop?
Well,
Why?
Some of them have automated car washes,
Well, I know, but
still.
but how many cars? I mean, I
Yeah.
honestly want to know. Now, look, guys, you may be a salesperson out there, and you're shaking your head like, "Oh shit, Jason, I'll wash someone's car." Well, then good. Okay, you're not on my list right now.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about all the people out there that don't. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like that's how we did it.
Yeah, sure.
It's just like when I first started selling cars, it was the same as you. It was all about how much value you could bring to the client.
You got to work for their business, and your job was to work not the manager as much as your customer. So if you could get them more money for their trade, and you could kind of broker the deal and do something special for the customer, you were in their business. And things change, but they don't.
No, they really don't, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about just providing more value.
Yeah.
When we started, it was a quarter for a coffee and hand washing a customer's car before we did an appraisal, right? And making sure they saw so, it's just like, that was our game. That was our stick. Now we do it through the form of technology.
Yeah.
And I think that's where digital retailing can kind of come in.
Sure.
Is that we're giving that value.
Yeah. Listen, if you wouldn't send your salespeople out and say, "Hi, can I help you?" Because the customer's going to say, "No, not right now," and they're going to walk away.
Yep.
So if we introduce digital retailing and a customer sits at home and spends the time in their living room doing their homework and checking out the incentives and the lease rates compared to buy and seeing your actual inventory and being promised that they'll save 90 minutes in the dealership.
And it will, legitimately, it will.
Oh, they will.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And it's a great experience because now you can get in and bond with your salesperson, see where you're going to service your car, tour the facilities, drive the car, and validate. Millennials have to validate what they learn online.
Sure, of course.
So if they come in and the experience isn't what they were promised, they don't say anything anymore. Where the old days they would argue with you and say, "Hey, what about?" They just say thank you and they leave.
And they walk.
They walk.
100%.
So when they come in, you can't go up and say, "Hi, what particular car you're looking at today?" And you've got to kind of change your format. And where are you in your process? Have you started online?
I see, that's the key.
Can I pick it up from there?
That's being a customer-centric,
Yeah.
audience-specific approach, right?
Exactly.
It's that we don't know where they are. They could still be shopping. They still could be researching. They could be fully on the buying mode.
Yep.
Depending on how far they took that process in there, will kind of indicate that's the case.
Sure.
I'm going to throw something out there. I know I'm going to
Yeah.
get some slack for saying this,
Sure.
but I'm just going to say the Foursquare's dead.
Yeah.
Let's bury that fucker.
Yep.
Let's put it away.
Yep.
Let's slap a tombstone on it and say, thank you. You've done your job.
Yeah.
But it's now time to put you to pasture.
That's right.
You know?
Now I can tell you this. it had its time and place.
It did.
And it wasn't, obviously we sold a lot of cars with that,
Yeah,
right?
we did.
And it was revolutionary when it came out. I remember,
Yes, right.
we got 4 squares. But now with desking products and digital retailing, I mean, we can show them 6 payments in a matter of 2 seconds, and they can compare that lease to buy to purchase. So the process isn't dead, it's the time it took. So I used to have to go into my manager's office, or my salesman would come into my office, and I would have to calculate all these things. And if any one parameter changed, I had to go back and calculate all these again.
How many times it errors? I mean, I remember going back to my boss and say, boss, I got the deal. Here's a credit card. And he'd look at me and go, oh, shit. You're going to need to go get an $1,800 bump because I didn't include this trim package in it.
But
it eliminates so many of those little errors and all that extra time and just...
Sure. And listen, people believe what they see in print. And our smiley faces with, I need another $500 isn't cutting it, right?
You're a permanent marker.
Oh, I can write everything upside down.
I had this manager one time. I swear he was dyslexic.
Yeah.
And how the hell he got the position of like writing numbers? I couldn't even freaking read what the hell I remember getting a deal done, probably like $40 more than what I thought it was because I couldn't read the damn numbers on the page. It's just. But
it's true.
But how transparent is it? How can we trust that that's not the way that at one point in time the written word held value, it had trust, there was something with it. Now that's not the tech that we trust. We trust what we see online.
That's right.
If we could build that price online and then we come into the dealership and that price didn't change anything, instant transparency.
And that's where Cox is strong because we have, obviously with DealerTrack, we have the data. We have relationships with a lot of the lenders, well, most lenders, but even with a lot of OEMs now. So we get the incentives and we know what rebate they can have and what rate they can have. And if they switch from a buy to a lease, it takes all that ability to make an error, it takes it out of the equation. So for the customers, it's very important for us to make sure that the dealer doesn't look bad. Like you say, if the guy come back and you start backpedaling, and I've been there, I've seen it.
I was in a dealership this morning, it literally happened.
Yeah.
I was in a dealership this morning with a manager, all right, and they'd worked a deal kind of in communication efforts, all right, and then he came back and he looked at it and goes, shit, that's an SE. Oh, stop. Like, I didn't...
Hopefully he had a trade he could bury himself in.
So all of a sudden he was completely done with this deal, and then he had to find an extra $2,000 because he just accidentally clicked the wrong thing. It was just, in the new, because his program changed today, the new programs had, so it happens, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you always have disclaimers for that kind of stuff. But... yeah, it's dangerous. And once you tell people that, I mean, look at websites now. If you have a miscalculation on your website with OnVic involved and the customer comes in, there's a good chance you're eating it.
Yes.
So rightly so to some degree. I mean, it's everything is on the dealer now. But if we can eliminate it through technology, all the better.
No, I think there are so many benefits to digital retailing. One of them being from a liability perspective. I think there's just that in alone, that in itself, from a dealer principal's perspective, my ears perk up.
Yeah.
You mean there's a consistent, we don't mess this up, transparency type process, and so that's one. Another benefit that I see is obviously the process that it brings and the way to measure out that process.
Sure. Yeah.
Look, it's very customer centric. I mean, the amount of time it saves at the dealership for my staff, but also the amount of time it saves for the customer. Now it actually gives my staff the time to focus on what the user experience is.
That's right.
And I can really develop out something that's very unique to them. And then in addition to that is the branding opportunity.
Yep.
Like I said, at one point in time, we actually advertised that we had a website. That was a branding statement. Look at us.
Yeah.
Look, we got a website.
Sure.
That was only for the early adopters.
Yep.
And then now everybody's got a website. I mean, can you imagine opening a dealership right now without a website?
No, but it's amazing how many people don't make it their sole concentration. I mean, when I opened my own place, my big thing was I didn't want to give a certain syndicator all my money.
Sure.
So I worked nonstop on SEO, and I had college kids in at night, and I would run it through different site proofers and editors, And you got to change this meta tag, and you got to change it, optimize this, and we need to geofence, and we need to do this. Now you have bots and chat, and there's just so many things that they need to concentrate on. And honestly, dealers don't have the time. I mean, as managers, it used to be you had a used car manager, assistant used car manager, all these different people. And when things got bad in the mid 2000s there, it whittled down, and now these guys are wearing 3 and 4 hats. So,
yes,
I'm a used car manager, but I also cover the desk, and I've been a desking guy, and here comes the advertising guy, and I got to make sure my online guy is on point, and you're going. So it's the more that we can make it easier for the dealer, the better off they are. And we're learning a lot, even since we brought up the digital thing. It's a great tool, but that's not when you talk about process. If you don't have the process involved and there's not some training and you don't do a good job telling the story, the tool doesn't work. If I'm a carpenter and I have a hammer and I leave it in the car, well, it's not going to do me any good.
A tool is only as good as how well the individual uses it. That's just the bottom line, right? So here's the message that I'm really pushing out there for dealerships is we need to spend more time in not identifying tools as much as we need to spend time identifying processes, and then work backwards towards the tools to ensure that the tools support the processes that we're putting in place.
Exactly.
We just don't spend enough time there. We expect these tools to come in and be these magic diet pills, these quick fixes bullshit, and it's not.
They're not.
We have to set the stage, and then we work back towards technology to support what we're trying to achieve.
And we're looking for new ways for the dealers to do it all the time. What I do now is I'll mystery shop them. So I'll go on and I'll fill out part of the pre-qualification on digital retail, and I'll see what comes back. I have some messages come back in text that are basically saying, "How can I help you?" You wouldn't do it on the floor, but you're doing it in your responses. I've got other guys that have a nice video, comes right from the BDC department. The guy says, "Hey, I don't know where you are in your process. There's a fine line between harassing you and helping you," and they introduce a tool. Yeah. Maybe you'd like to start here, and that's showing transparency. That's enabling them. That's empowering them, and it's a little different message than everyone else, and they do really well.
That's a good way to really utilize and bring the tool into a specific process. So. This is new for a lot of dealerships. Yeah. A lot of dealerships are still learning about digital retailing. They're still, in their heads playing out the pros and the cons. Okay, you've had some dealerships that have already started to embrace this, and some of them really be successful with it. What does it look like right now at this moment for a dealership to be successful with digital retailing?
They have to engage. I mean, right on your homepage, this is what you do, right? Mm-hmm. The dealerships don't do as good a job as the OEMs do branding themselves. So they'll get that top banner, and they'll have, let's say, whatever model they're in. Let's say they're, I hate to even hit an OEM, but if they're a particular OEM, they provide you with great banners and sliders for the top.
But it's the same message every single
dealership. That's right.
It's red tag days right now for Toyota.
Sure.
Every single Toyota site you go to, the first thing you're going to see, it's the same bloody message.
Yep. And they know you're a Toyota dealership, and they may be shopping 3 Toyota dealerships. And if you all look the same, what differentiates you from the others? So
100%.
The other thing is, it goes back to telling the story. Hey, the best deal that you can make is your own deal. Use the tool.
Simple.
And you don't have to oversell it. You just have to let them know it's available, and they'll use it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people go with multiple features, and because that tool is kind of connected to a vehicle description page or VDP, once they click on 1 or 2 specials, they're into it and they're going, "Hey, this is great. Now I can compare. Can I afford that? Or can I afford that?" I don't think we want to push payment, because I think it gets away from our own identity and why people come to us.
Sure.
But I think people still budget and buy on payment, so give them the tool.
No, I think the tool, what it does, like you said, it creates engagement.
Yeah.
We're really bad, by the way, engaging. Dealerships in general, I try not to get too negative on these things, but the bottom line is just we are. And generally, as an industry, we're very bad with engaging. Now, there's some dealerships out there that they're crushing it. So guys, just stick your fingers in your ear right now. You're cool, okay? All right? But for the dealerships out there that really don't understand what it means to engage with the customer, they just don't. they want to go straight to the appointment phase. It's like, do you remember? I mean, I remember being trained is that there's this courtship period. Like, we don't just try to put a ring on the finger. Like, we actually try to court the customer and develop out a rapport and engage with them and have a fucking conversation before we try to shove a $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 product down their throat.
This might be a crude analogy, but I remember back in '79, one of my first managers said to me, "Listen, would you pick up a girl and just say, 'Hey, I'd like to go parking,' and you know."
You wouldn't.
And no, there's got to be some courtship. And the strongest salesmen I've worked with, and I've worked with some of the best, they are able to build rapport like that.
I agree with you. I think when you look at patterns of success, all right, the most successful salespeople I've seen they almost instantaneously know how to do that.
Yeah, and some of them are naturals, whether it's body language, whether it's the way they come off, or just their ability to pick up on key things and run with them. So that's got to be part of your process too. I mean, you can't just rush to the payment and like you say, stick the ring on the finger. You have to have some courtship, and you have to build rapport, and not just for yourself, but for your dealership.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you walk them through your service department, show them around, introduce them to some people, let them see where they're going to come to service their car, and feel at home.
So that's a great place where digital retailing can also support your efforts.
Sure.
Is engaging. It is creating that rapport. It gives them an opportunity.
Yep.
It's like the leads come in, and our first buddy question out is, when would you like to get married?
Yeah.
That's literally, you secret shop a bunch of dealerships. Like, it's a little embarrassing. We don't do that at the dealership, but for some reason we decide to do that behind a computer, just immediately go to it. Digital retailing gives us an opportunity to say, let's start.
Yep.
Let's start here. Let's go on our first date.
Yep.
Take this product for a ride, all right, and kind of see how far you get along, knowing that I'm going to be here to support.
Yeah. Listen, I know everyone talks about the Carvanas and that, and I just drove down to Florida, and I know it was nighttime, but it looked pretty lonely there. I don't think people are ready to, and we've done all kinds of surveys, and other digital retailers have. They're not ready to push a button and buy.
Very small percentages.
Yeah, very small.
But let's start building out. Let's be prepared. Let's not be the typical dealership mentality of being reactive. Let's be proactive. Let's start talking about what that looks like and what tools would be required to do that if we get to that stage.
Yeah, and then that's where marketing comes in. I mean, dealers, I can tell you, this is the most significant year for digital retailing, in history. Everyone's engaging it. It's whether you've got the courage to do it, the creativity to do it properly, and those who get into it now and do it well will be that much further ahead. And I think you got to look at, and this is your department, marketing ways to tell the message. We can tag that digital tool to all kinds of marketing campaigns and processes that describe it very quickly.
Well, we have to bring value. See, you understand? So when dealerships, way back in the day, just started to get their websites, and for a period there, for a good 24 months, only maybe even a third of dealerships actually had websites, okay? Well, that magic 30%, 30 some odd percent, all right, they had the opportunity to say that we value you as a customer, that we give you now the opportunity to shop us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Right? They was providing value. It was like, whoa, check out this dealership. I can go online and check out their stuff, And it was very crude back then. I mean, even inventory. We didn't even have live inventory then.
I sat on some boards for some major websites in the area that because we were one of the first ones to really start digital and taking pictures and loading on sites, they would come and say, like, how do we get people to do this? Because dealers wouldn't do it. Yeah. And a lot of it was, you had an older used car guy that had been at it forever. You got the typical bottle in the thing and having a smoke.
Huge Rolodex.
And they weren't going to get into the digital concept. And that's why they started doing shoots at your dealership. And they wanted to know how long will it take and what's the average time it takes to do and how do we convince dealers to do this, and so things evolve.
There were a lot of people that fought it.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not going to invest my money in there. I'm not going to spend and back then capture was expensive. It was not cheap.
Yeah. But your data was yours.
But your dad was yours. That's very true. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Here it is
And
on a floppy disk. Send it wherever you want.
Yeah, no. That's very true. God, how much we've changed. But we had to buy into the value that brought to the consumer, right?
Yeah.
Being able to put that inventory up there, being able to put those pictures up there, it brought value to the consumer in their purchasing decision. It's no different than the dealerships out there that are the early adopters. We're talking early adopters because I still think there's an opportunity here for early adopters.
Oh, yeah.
Is that branding opportunity to say that, it's no different than, when we first put out our websites. It's no different when we first put up live inventory. It's now say, you can actually do the entire, if you really wanted to, you could do the entire purchase online.
Yep.
If you wanted to.
Come in and sign. Yep.
Yeah,
No,
you can
for
do
sure.
just the come in and sign process.
And as a trainer and a performance manager, I take it personal that I know if the process doesn't come from the top down. So if our sales department goes into a dealership and says, you got to get this, and somebody buys it, and the team isn't on board, and the process isn't going from the top down and right to the sales floor, I know there's a good chance that they might not succeed. If their leads aren't being monitored, if our leads go right into their dealer track portal.
Mm-hmm.
If F&I isn't pulling these out, and if they don't have a process to send these out to their BDC, or every dealer is different, but if I don't commit to making sure that they're successful and they have a process, then they will fail.
Oh no,
And-
100%.
Yep.
And you've been in a lot of dealerships.
Yep.
I mean, a lot. So
Yep.
you've started to see patterns
Yep.
that within successful dealerships and patterns in not so successful dealerships. What would you say? I'm just curious because I ask
Sure.
everybody this
Yeah.
question, right? What would you say that you've identified as being a consistent thing
Yep.
that exists at successful dealerships?
Top-down influence.
Ah,
There has to be a vision, there has to be a process, and it has to be enforced. Listen, salesmen will always take the easiest route, and,
Sure.
and not just the easiest. I mean, just picture that you've been in the business for whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. You learn on a certain platform that you desk deals on. You have a certain accounting process. You have a certain service tool. You have, and you get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're busy as heck. You're there on a Saturday. You got 8, 9 deals together, and all of a sudden, hey, listen, we're going to change your desking platform. We're going to change your process. We've changed your website. We're going to change your service mining tool. We're going to change this. We're going to change that. And then there's pushback.
Yep.
Now, if I allow everyone to just go off, willy-nilly, then you're bound to fail.
Sure.
If they come in and say, listen, this is where we're going. This is why. We think we need a CRM. We think we need a digital tool. Because if we don't, we're not going to exist in 3 years.
Well, if you define the process.
Yep.
So, and I think that's what's key is that I find that we're attracted to shiny things.
Yeah, sure.
So, what ends up is, and I consult a lot of dealerships. I get to work with a lot of dealerships. And one of our first part of onboarding a dealership is really deep diving into, what they're using, what they're not using, what their processes are, what their branding opportunities are, so on and so forth. So we can really develop out some strong marketing strategies. I am dumbfounded by how many tools out there are being paid for on a regular basis and not freaking used, right?
Exactly. And this is why dealers get gun shy. Because all of a sudden, oh, there's a new guy in town and he's saying I got to have this. Well, you know what? There was 10 other guys that told me I had to spend all this money. Nobody used it and I didn't get the value out of it.
Yeah.
So if you can show them the process and if they can enforce the process the thing that baffles me is how someone in a dealership can decide after a dealer principal has decided to commit a bunch of dollars to launching a product and keeping a product that they can decide, no, I'm not going to use it.
I don't. Okay, so it's not just me. Then I see the same thing.
That's right.
That's the WTF moment for me.
Yep.
Because I'm like, what are you talking about?
Is your name on the door?
Your dealer principal literally gave you direction as far as what, and then you decide that. Why do we do that? And there's a fair amount. Look, there's some dealerships that aren't out there, so let's give them their fair shake. There's dealerships aren't there. There's lots of them out there, but then there's a good chunk of them that somehow are managed by, like the dealership's efforts and processes are managed by people that have no skin in the game.
Why do some top salesmen get away with murder? It's because they're producing and you don't want to rock the boat and you think you got talent, but down the road it costs you money.
Yeah.
And so if you get a strong guy, and I've seen people, eat other salesmen's lunch, and literally, they hire a new guy with potential, and they'll go in the fridge and eat the guy's lunch and drive him out. Hide the keys, or hot trade comes in and make it impossible for other people to come on the floor, and every customer is theirs. It's the same principle. If you allow someone to dictate the process, I've been in dealers where they say, "Listen, we've committed to a CRM and a process or a digital tool or an inventory tool," and they say, "You got 30 days, and you jump on board or you leave, because we believe this is essential to our dealership surviving in today's market." And you have to make it clear. And if you do, it's just like your gym teacher in high school. He made it very clear. It wasn't like maybe your French teacher was kind of wishy-washy. You knew if you crossed that line, he was going to put you against the wall or something.
No. But
literally.
But it's true, though. I would agree with you. Yeah. I've had the opportunity to be in a lot of dealerships. Yep. And one of the key factors, I think, of some of the ones I've seen to be very successful is this, it's my way, or kind of the highway mentality of like, here's how it's going to go down. Yep. Here's how our process is going to be with each client, all the way down to the way you answer the phone, to the meet and greet. Okay, so I've used this one a couple times before. You've been in the business to remember this. I worked my first job at a dealership. You had to do a meet and greet verbatim. Yeah. If you could not do the meet and greet verbatim, you were not able to sell cars that day. You went home. Yep. I don't think we could get away with that today because of the labor laws, but but that's what it was. It was like, go home. Yeah. You weren't able to do it, go home, right? Yeah. And there was a reason why we had, and now at first, now I'm older and I can appreciate it. At that point in time, I thought my sales manager was just a dick, but what I realized is that he was creating consistency in a process.
You go to McDonald's, they all look the same. You have to have a consistency. Yeah, but that's the upsell part, and that's where you get the menu selling. But people want to go in and get a consistent. I just drove down to Florida. I was telling you last week, and I want to know if I stop at a Wendy's on the way that I'm going to be able to go in and get that Frosty and whatever I want.
And it's going to be the exact same.
Yeah, and for salespeople that are starting, like he says, you might think your sales manager doesn't know what he's talking about, or your dealer principal. But dealer principals didn't get where they are by not being smart and not being good at what they're doing. There's so much money invested and there's so much time. Listen and learn. When I started, they're giving you business cards, they're giving you a phone, they're giving you a desk, they're giving you paying your rent, paying your heat, giving you product, bringing leads in. We didn't have the lead tools that they have now.
No.
And CRMs that say, here's your day.
calling people out of a phone book.
Sure, here's your phone book.
I tell people that and they think I'm crazy.
They did it all the time. Here's your phone book. When you get so many deals, then we'll talk about going on the floor. And lots of salespeople started that way. But imagine now when you come in and your day's planned out. Hey, we've got 5 leads come in. You've got 3 of them. There's your appointment. So-and-so is going to be in service. He's got positive equity in his trade. You need to go see him at 10 o'clock when he comes in. Give him a car to drive. We need his car on the used car lot. And you've mapped out the whole day. When I started, the cutting edge technology, I remember we got ASTN. And satellite TV wasn't even out in Canada, but it was in the States. And we had the satellite upstairs that said ASTN. And it brought in like Tom Stucker and all the old trainers, Jackie Cooper and all these guys. And if I wasn't on shift, I was either there doing my deliveries or I was up learning all I could and listening to what my manager is saying. And I remember one incident where the guy, where there's a time where you got to shut up. And as new salesmen, they would go on and
talk themselves out of deals.
And I remember I jumped in one time and my manager gave me a look, and after we were done, I said, I didn't realize that you were communicating through your mind. He said, no, listen, the first person that talks loses. And it's true. Jackie Cooper used to start that way, like, shut up.
I remember that.
So listen to your managers and listen to the process. And if they commit to a tool, by all means, use it and utilize it.
Well, the analogy I like to use is, I want to lose 15 pounds.
Yeah, me too.
All right. We all do, right? I'm going to drink some beer. Cheers. I'm going to drink some beer. But I ain't going to do that just because I want to.
No.
All right? Like, it's my consistency and my efforts that's going to get me to that place.
Exactly.
And that's it. That's the bottom line. Like, there ain't anything else. All right? There's no magic pill out there. There's no magic device out there that's going to get me to lose that. I don't know. Maybe there is. but no, there isn't. No. But it's the consistency and me going to that gym 2-3 times a week. All right, hitting that treadmill, doing that elliptical machine. It's the consistency of my efforts that's going to bring me those results.
It's the same as your advertising, right? You can't do one radio spot and expect it to work. You can't do one, ad. You can't do one campaign. It's consistency, and
you got to embrace that process. You got to embrace it. So when your dealership signs up with a tool like digital retailing, and there's a lot of other tools too, CRM systems, lead management systems, appraisal systems,
We have them all.
Good plug. But no, seriously, if we don't embrace the consistency, the consistent activity of using these tools, then they're not worth anything. They're just expensive paperwork.
That's right. And that's, I think, the key to making them work. And listen, they all evolve. I mean, we listen to dealers' feedback all the time and do surveys all the time. And if there is a way to improve it and it makes sense to multiple dealers, not just one dealer, we'll engage it. I think the industry was kind of looking for a one process fits all with all the tools. And they kind of complained that things were siloed.
Sure.
And so everyone tried to get this one process that works for everyone. But there's not one dealership that's the same.
No.
And we realize dealers want different things for different reasons. And it's our job to integrate with what they want and make it match their process. But that process has to be enforced. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't like the word enforced.
No,
a little dictarian, but
but it needs to though. Look, when I work with my personal trainer, do you think it's a discussion? No, seriously. No, do you think we have a discussion about what's going to happen?
I've been there. You could try and humor them for a bit, but it's not lasting for long.
It ain't going to happen. He's going to make me do what I need to do so I can meet my goal and objective. So I actually don't have an issue with laying down the law and saying this is the direction we're heading in. Okay, right? This is what, we got to try it. And if the results aren't there, then we can pivot, then we can move around. But everybody needs on board. We need to have consistency in those efforts.
No, totally agree.
I always like to ask this question of my guests is what, if you were to give, we'll work down the column.
Sure.
I'm going to stop at the top. If you were to give dealer principals one piece of advice over your years of experience, all right, and I know there's a lot, what would be that one piece of advice?
I think recognize talent. There's and be present as much as you can. I work with a lot of large groups, and so you can't have one dealer principal that's present all the time, but there's someone. And at the end of the day, they want to know how many trades you looked at, how many people you've seen, and how many cars, kind of a look to book. And I think it has to be consistent because a month can get away from you. And your month end seems to run into the next month end, and your day can fly by without having checks and balances. So there's CRM tools that will say, hey, at 10 or 12, let's look at what did we do with these things.
Sure.
And they're actually can record things and not in a bad way, but in a learning process type of way where, hey, you did this, but why don't we try this? And I think if the dealer can expect what you expect, is that the term? I can't remember exactly, but inspect what you expect. And I think that keeps you accountable.
Of course.
And I think it's the easiest thing for salespeople to do because there's, like you say, something shiny. Someone's coming in the door, something's happening, you're rearranging the showroom. There's always things to do, you're making calls. But you have to keep your eye on the prize. You have a target.
Stick to that process. Let that process start to really kind of mature out. I always like to tell people that strategies are like wines or good scotches. Right? Give them time. And they'll do something pretty damn impressive. Right? But you got to have your eye on the prize. And you got to be prepared to pivot when necessary.
Everything becomes routine. In judo, we do what's called randori, and you repeat the same move over and over and over and over and over, and you think, this is crazy. And yet, when it comes time, it's instantaneous. And same with sales.
It's like that verbatim
word tracks. Word tracks. You think, oh, that's so weird. Like, what do you care if I say it exactly like this? And
creates the habits.
Yet, once it comes off, it becomes your vocabulary.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I think that's a great piece of advice. It really is. Let's move down the totem pole.
Sure.
Management. years of experience.
Yep.
What would be that one piece of advice you'd like to hand off to them?
I think you're there to support your staff. I've seen bad managers who will, run people down. I've been at meetings. I had one guy come in. He was having trouble with his wife. It was a young guy that just had a baby, and he was literally crying. And the guy turned around and said, "Look, I don't give a shit. I don't care who you have to call to take care of yourself. But you need to do numbers." And I was like, you know what? This guy's been a top performer. He really has some issues going on, and we need to support him and help him.
So be a coach.
Coaching.
Really be a coach.
Yeah.
Because I think what ends up happening is management is that we train on the efforts.
Yep.
We we develop out the efforts so that they provide better performance.
Yep.
But then we don't take step 3. And step 3 is coaching those individuals.
Yep.
Because every individual is different.
Yep.
And we have to coach them separately, and we have to spend the time to figure out what's going to assist them in getting better.
That's right.
So.
And you have to appreciate their time. So you can't have them sitting at the desk waiting for a number while you're chatting, or you're doing an ad, or you're doing something. They've got somebody live in front of them.
This is your team.
Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah.
Come on, coach.
Them
This is your team.
and help them.
They're out there fighting for you.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Be the coach that they need.
Yeah, I see frustration all the time. 4 guys will be sitting at the desk and they'll be rolling their eyes, and other things are going on that aren't as important. And if you don't go in and teach them the right way, or maybe we could have done this, or maybe we could have done that, instead of saying, "What are you doing?" I think you'll have a more responsive person. I mean, it's just like coaching. I coach girls hockey, and if I yell at them, I'm telling you, I'm not getting anything out of them.
Of course.
So especially, they get 15, 16, they're not appreciating that.
Shut down real quick.
Yeah, they look at you like you're from outer space. So you have to work with them and explain and coach. Exactly. And realize that, and the other thing I really resented as a manager, was seeing other managers do, or as a salesperson, is bringing people in for uselessness. I don't like managers that make meetings for the sake of meetings and have no content. If you're going to have a Monday morning meeting, then let's talk about the trades that are coming in. Let's talk about that new tool.
Make it actionable.
Yeah, let's talk about the new process and the incentives, and let's make it
it's
worthwhile.
It's part of being a coach.
That's right.
All right, being a real coach, when you have those meetings for a very specific purpose.
Yeah.
Right, and it is not to bash on everyone's performance. All
That's
right?
right.
Those meetings are designed to literally uplift the entire team's efforts and make sure that as a team we're continuing to move forward.
That's right.
You want to coach people individually on their stuff, do it individually. Don't take the whole group and just bash on them, because that negativity feeds off into them. That negativity then feeds into the customers. It's a total lose. I agree with you. So I think that's great. Now let's work down to the last one.
Sure.
Salesperson.
Yep.
You've been there. I've been there.
Yep.
Right. We've had good months and bad months, and and some months that we're like, what the hell happened, right?
Yep.
All right. What piece of advice would you like to give out to those salespeople?
This is your business. You're your own brand. Build your brand. Look at all the tools available to you. We didn't have those, really. Your brand was getting referrals. I remember, being one of the first guys to take their pictures and keep them on file. And but now you can have your own Facebook page. You can have your own blog. You can have your own content. Talk about what you're interested in. Whatever you're interested in, people will engage with you. Build that brand. Work with the tools that you've got, and build your career. Yep. I mean, there's 2 paths you can go. You can be a salesman who in 10, 15 years, everyone that comes in with a lease return is yours.
Sure.
Or you can get into management.
Still know some of those guys.
And they're still there.
Yep.
Never had an interest in management.
Yep.
But
some of those guys only work 2 days a week now and golf the rest of the time.
That's right. But use your time. It's your time, and you have to use it properly. So learn everything you can. Do things on your off shift, like your deliveries, phone calls, follow up. Use video. I mean, you're huge on video.
100%.
It's so easy now. Like, I've got the green screen right behind my desk there, and I can put together anything as quickly as I want. How many videos do you put on it? I'd hate to even guess.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I would say right now we're probably sitting on 70 some odd terabytes of video. Just and some of it never even been touched yet. It's just, but it's the brand, right? Yeah. And I love the fact you said it, because I implore the salespeople the same thing, is that moving forward, you're going to be evaluated not just on what you can sell, but how much brand equity you bring to the dealerships. I remember at one point in time a guy getting paid $10,000 signing check to leave one dealership and go work for another one.
Yep, bring your people.
Right? And that was because back then we had to sell. We had to sell. We had to sell hard, right? Yep. The game has changed. Yep. Okay, selling now happens before they even come into the dealership. Yep. I mean, people come in looking for stock number A772B6. You know what I mean? They don't come in saying, "Do you have pickups?"
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore. Okay, so developing out that brand, being that expert, and really creating that audience. That's what's going to bring you value, not just in your paycheck now, but also in your future value to additional companies.
And it does accumulate.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, you don't expect to, take a few pictures of deliveries and then give up. And, every delivery should be on. I mean, I started the wholesale division in 2003. Mm-hmm. Every caller that came in, I did a video, and it was a little, we used Animoto back then, but it looked pretty professional. But every car had one. It was on YouTube. I optimized the descriptions. I put every delivery on there with pictures. And that's your brand. So start now, and the dividends will pay off. It's all about consistency, and you don't have to sell people. Let them see who you are. Build your brand, and give. Give information about the car. Tell them about the trades that are coming in.
You need to provide more value.
Yeah.
Like your brand needs to provide more value than just the product and services that you provide. And the only way to do that is to be consistent in your efforts. Yeah. That's what it all goes down to. That part's never changed. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
That's never changed. Yeah. Consistent in your efforts is still the key to success in sales.
Yep.
Dwayne, thank you so much, man, for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you coming out and jamming with me. I'm so excited to get this edited and get this out there. Yep. For the people out there that would love to connect with you, what is the best way to connect with you?
You can go on one of my blog pages, Dwayne.Green or DwayneGreen.ca. Check out our Cox Automotive websites and look at some of the tools. Check me out on LinkedIn, and I would say that's the best way right now.
That's awesome, man. Hey, thanks. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.